Next, please. And Eliza R. Snow, now she was older, and I think in her 80s by now, and she was saying, don't you see that our sphere is increasing? Our sphere of action will continually widen, and no woman in Zion needs to mourn because her sphere is too narrow. She said, we have been given opportunities and we're rising to it. So, next please. So here are some pictures of women during World War I, World War II, and the efforts that they would make, sending supplies and needs and needed food and clothing and things like that. They would send over to the soldiers and donate greatly to the Red Cross. Next, please. Okay, and around the turn of the century, in the early 1900s, the church stopped having people migrate all the way to Salt Lake City when they joined the church. So when the missionaries were out in any other country, they started to say, we need you to stay here and we need to build up the church here. And especially with the world wars happening, the travel was not as easy, and it just became better to just stay where you are and build the church up and make it strong there. So here's some examples. There were saints in Armenia, but they had to leave Turkey during the Armenian Holocaust and settled in Syria, and the mission president there was able to help them to find a place to live. And then women in England were a very strong force for good there as well, doing a lot of charity. Next, please. Also, some other examples for other relief societies. Let's see. In Germany, the president of one of the relief societies wrote, our trust in the Lord and our testimony of his church have been our pillar of strength. Some of us have lost all our earthly possessions because of the war, but with joy we sing the songs of Zion and put our trust in the Lord. He maketh all things well. So again, even 50 years later, we're still hearing kind of the same theme. A Relief Society president during World War II rode her bike many times to visit the women of her district, even though it was very dangerous. With the German occupation, you always had to have ID and have your papers with you, and despite that, she just fearlessly went out to visit them and make sure that everyone was okay. Another Relief Society president said, in Denmark also, so the sisters in Denmark were preparing packages of goods that were sent over to Norway. So they were kind of looking to see how they could help other groups in other countries even. Okay, next please. So with Visiting Teaching Program, I'll tell you a little about this. Before, in Nauvoo, they had 4 women who would go assigned for each ward and go around and see what the needs were. But today we have it so that in every ward, every woman who's willing to will be paired up, and they will be assigned to visit other women in their ward. So you might have 3 or 4 women that you're assigned to visit, and the idea is that you visit them at least once a month and see what their needs are, provide service, whatever they need help with, they need support. If someone is sick, you can take meals, different things like that. And so that way, each person can be looked after and each person can be ministered to. So let's see, a man named Henry B. Eyring, who's he's a counselor in the First Presidency now. He said the only system which could provide succor and comfort across a church so large in a world so varied would be through individual servants near the people in need. The Lord had seen that coming from the beginning of Relief Society. He set a pattern in place. 2 Relief Society sisters accept their assignment to visit another as a call from the Lord. That was true from the start. The members of Relief Society have always been trusted by local priesthood shepherds. Every bishop and every branch president has a Relief Society president to depend upon. She has visiting teachers who know the trials and the needs of every sister. She can, through them, know the hearts of individuals and families. She can meet needs and help the bishop in his call to nurture individuals and families. Next, please. Oh, there it was. Sorry. That's Henry B. Eyring and what he said about that. All right, next. Thank you. So we also have a program called Compassionate Service. And this is where there's a woman called to be the coordinator, and she'll be able to call other women if she knows that there's going to be a funeral. she'll call different women to ask for, give assignments for preparing food, providing things for the family that's bereaved. If somebody's sick, they might call and say, can you take a meal over? Or if someone, like when a woman's had a baby, they might say, can you go babysit the other children so she can get some rest, different things like that. And that way, everyone can be aware of each other and develop just the attitude of being a watch caregiver. Next, please. So this is a poem that a woman named Emily Woodmansee wrote. She was also a pioneer, and it was put to music, but I won't sing it for you today. But this is basically a hymn that just captures the spirit of Relief Society, so I wanted to include that. And it says, as sisters in Zion we'll all work together, the blessings of God on our labors we'll seek. We'll build up his kingdom with earnest endeavor, we'll comfort the weary and strengthen the weak. The errand of angels is given to women, and this is a gift that as sisters we claim, to do whatsoever is gentle and human, to cheer and to bless in humanity's name. How vast is our purpose, how broad is our mission, if we but fulfill it in spirit and deed. Oh, not but the Spirit's divinest tuition can give us the wisdom to truly succeed. Next, please. Okay, so here's some local history. Pretty recent. Were you here in 2005 when hurricane?
That looks like our yard.
Yeah, this is actually a picture from Beaumont. I could not find a picture from Nacogdoches. My husband and I, with our children, were living in San Antonio. So at first we thought the storm was supposed to come hit Corpus Christi and come up our way, but then last minute it shifted and it came your way. So I wanted to share a little bit about what happened here in Nacogdoches with the Relief Society. So, because it was, as you remember, there was no power, no running water, the stores were empty, and it was pretty bad. But nobody knew how bad it was going to be. And so before the storm hit, Nacogdoches was designated as an evacuation center. Nobody realized how bad it was going to get. And so our chapel was designated as the destination for people living in Orange, Texas. And so members came up from there starting on Wednesday. The storm came on Saturday. But so they could leave early, because that was the big problem with Hurricane Katrina, was people getting trapped and not leaving on time. But so a lot of people were leaving early, trying to just get out of the way. And everyone's still traumatized from Hurricane Katrina. And so our church building became a refugee center, and almost 160 people were living in the church for about a week. And they didn't turn anybody away, so they didn't have to be a member of the church, but they did have to just kind of fill out some papers just so everyone knew who was there and kept track of everybody. So the woman who was serving as our Relief Society president at the time, she was telling me about it, and she said that the Relief Society prepared 2 meals a day for the evacuees, and she and one of her counselors had to go from store to store just looking for food so they could prepare something for all these people. And people were donating, from our ward, were donating food from their own food storage. They had supplies stored up. And so that they could make these meals and feed everybody. And we have a Bishop's Storehouse in Longview, and so a truck came down on Saturday, and one of our Bishop members had to go up and drive through the rain and the wind and meet that truck and get supplies and bring it back down. So it was kind of a big deal. But it was really neat to hear the stories of what other people did. So before the storm hit, someone brought his big grill and they were cooking food for everybody. Way to go, Texas, making barbecue. And someone else, they had a house near the church, and so they had people come and use the bathroom, and before the water was lost, that they were taking showers on rotation so that everyone could bathe. And then someone found out that one of the children was having his birthday, and so someone baked a cake and brought it up and some presents, and they had a little party for him. And next slide, please. Another couple, they were planning on having family come up from Houston, but nobody from Houston could get out of Houston. It was a disaster. And so they ended up just turning around wherever they could and go back home because they couldn't leave. And so this couple, they weren't having family come anymore, so they said, hey, Bishop, send people our way, more people come to the church. So Bishop sent 14 people over to their house. And this group didn't speak English, and my friend doesn't speak Spanish, but she said we communicated with hugs, and it was great. And so she told me how they just gathered in the kitchen and were chopping up vegetables and cooking together and just had a great time. And while the trees were bending low and the rain was pouring down, and by the time they left 2 days later, then, you know, there were tears of gratitude and appreciation, and she just said they're my best friends now, you know, just wonderful people. So, so that's just a local kind of recent event that you can remember. And this is what the Relief Society women were doing here. Next, please. Oh yeah, so there's the church. And so Marcia has said, it was so neat to be a part of the Relief Society sisters and the priesthood brethren coming together to help and serve those who had been displaced because of the storm. So it was really neat, she said, to see the men and the women working together and just doing what needed to be done to help these poor people. So
where is that church now?
This is on 7 and the Loop. So McMichael, yeah, it's here in Natchitoches. So it's not far. But yeah, McMichael Middle School would be further up the Loop that way. So next, please. So this is what we call the baptism covenant, and it's in the Book of Mormon. And it says, as ye are desirous to come into the fold of God and to be called his people and are willing to bear one another's burdens that they may be light, yea, and are willing to mourn with those that mourn, yea, and comfort those that stand in need of comfort, and to stand as witnesses of God at all times and in all things and in all places that ye may be in, even until death, that ye may be redeemed of God. And this is the promise that women since 1842, and even before that, I think the first women that were baptized into this church was 1830. And so since then, it has been the goal and the mission for the women of the church to keep this covenant and to mourn with those that mourn and comfort whoever needs comfort, whether they're in the church or not. And so I look at this Relief Society organization, and just see that, you know, through all these years, Relief Society women were organized under prophetic vision and by priesthood authority. They were ennobled and empowered at a time when women were considered property by law. They have been charged with the sacred mandate to seek out and help those in need around them, and they have done so 1,000 times over. They have committed themselves to the cause of Jesus Christ through baptism, and then through additional covenants in the temple, they are endowed with divine power to overcome all temptation and trouble, receive knowledge and inspiration from God, and ultimately are sealed to their family members for time and all eternity. Thank you. We have about 30 seconds. If you have any other questions, you're welcome to ask. But I also brought some little souvenirs if you want to take any with you. There's some here and also in the back. But this pamphlet is called The Family, A Proclamation to the World, and is our belief on the importance of the family. And then some other cards that you can look on the back, and you can either get a free video that's about strengthening families or having faith in Christ or something like that. So you're welcome to take those. Or if you just like the pictures, you can have them. So, thank you so much.